Ryan Hamilton, it is such an honor to have you on the Ken Harbaugh Show. I think a lot of people know who you are already, but to set the stage, I want to roll this ad from our allies at the Lincoln Project, produced by our good friend, Rick Wilson. Here's the ad.
Driver's license, registration.
Here you go, sir. How's your day going?
That's your daughter?
Sure is.
Abigail, right?
How do you know her?
Were you about 8 weeks pregnant? See, you've been spotting recently. You've had any cramps or nausea?
That's personal.
You been taking your prenatal vitamins?
Excuse me?
Are you ticketing me for something?
Where are you heading, Abigail?
To go see my older sister, Natalie.
Well, that's strange. This says here that Natalie's at a concert in Dallas. And your navigation is set to a women's health clinic in one of those abortion states.
We have the right to travel.
Not anymore. Step out of the car.
Please, officer.
Both of you out now. You, sir, are under arrest for crossing state lines to obtain an abortion for a minor under your care. And you, young lady, well, you're under arrest for evading motherhood.
Ryan, I want to give you the backstory on why I didn't interview you when we played your episode on the Ken Harbaugh Show. Anne-Marie and I lost a baby over a decade ago, and I wasn't sure I could get through that interview. I mean, even Rick, who guest hosted that episode, had a tough time. But my feeling in the home stretch of this election is, if you've got the guts to be out there every day talking about why this issue is so important, I can at least muster the courage to listen, to have this conversation with you. That is a long way of saying thank you for inspiring so many of us, especially the men out there who have women in their lives that they care about, that they want to stand up for and protect. I got to get to a question here, so I'll just ask, how do you react to that unbelievable, powerful video from Rick and the Lincoln Project?
First of all, thank you. It's such an interesting thing to be thanked for what I'm doing and what we're going through. It feels weird for someone to say thank you, but I understand that it comes from a good place, and I still haven't figured out how to respond, because your welcome doesn't quite cut it. So, I mean, thank you. I haven't found the right way to express what that means for somebody to thank me for what I'm trying to do. And I'm just trying to do what I thought any dad or husband would do. In that ad, I mean, if you're a girl dad, it's hard. It's hard to watch, but it should be hard to watch. And if a father can watch that and it not have an effect on them, I think they need to take a moment and just go have some time. Just look in the mirror and wonder, okay, am I voting for the right reasons? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do as a father to protect my daughter? If somebody can watch that ad, which was understandably difficult for me to watch, and not have a real response, I think they need to question some pretty important things.
Yeah. Because of what you went through, almost losing your wife because of Texas's draconian anti-abortion laws, people are listening to you. I know you get a ton of hate and that has got to be the worst part of it. But I suspect there are, broadly speaking, apart from the haters, two different kinds of reactions. There are those who don't believe what's going on, and they might be persuadable. And then there are those who think that this is a fair price to pay for a world in which abortion is impossible to get to. I don't know how to talk to those folks, because that's a kind of religious zealotry that logical argument can't break through. Have you encountered these different attitudes towards your message, and how do you pick and choose who you try to win over?
Great question. And absolutely have encountered the worst to the best.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of hate out there, but I don't try and pick and choose at all. I just try and stay consistent. And that's the thing about telling the truth about a terrible thing that happened. One, it's very easy to prove. And two, you don't really have to change your story or try and tell it a different way. I've found that, since I started doing this, not knowing it was going to become what it's become, just getting out there and being honest and not taking any shit at the same time. And that to me is the most important thing, just to get out there and go, here's our story. This is how it happened. This is reality. This is not political propaganda. This is a real thing, and we're not the only ones. Just yesterday, I was on Sirius XM and was part of the, I always say this wrong because I'm from Texas and we say some words funny. Smirconish or Smirconish?
Yeah.
Smirconish. I was on that program. My friend Tara Sedmeyer from the Seneca Project was guest hosting, and we had a conversation for about 20 minutes at the end of the show, just kind of recounting my story, and she thought it was important to have me on. A caller called in after I was done, a pro-life Catholic, and the guy's name was Brian, and Brian said that he had clarity and that he had a change of heart after hearing my story. To hear a pro-life Catholic man hear my story and our story, my family's story, and go, hold on a second, this is different than I thought. It's not that black and white. Abortion is not just for women who have elective abortions, which is what the pro-life right, they love to just focus on that. Abortion care covers a wide range of really difficult situations, like what happened to my wife. She had an incomplete miscarriage. That requires abortion care. Just because people have some negative reaction to the word abortion, that doesn't mean that that's not what is necessary. That word has become something different, and it shouldn't be. But to answer your question, I've witnessed people just yesterday and numerous times before that change. I've seen it in real time. It is the most rewarding and moving thing. It brought tears to my eyes yesterday because that big lump in your throat, oh my God, I can't believe this feeling. But I'm not trying to pick and choose. I'm just trying to get out there and tell the truth.
It's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break here to remind everyone, if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast version of this show, please do. The link is below. And don't forget to rate and review. It makes a huge difference in how the algorithm ranks shows. Thanks for the support. Today's modern diet makes it really difficult to keep things in balance. Extra sugar is found in so many foods, and no matter how hard I try, I'm not eating as much fiber as I want to. Built by the PhD microbiologists at ZBiotics, Sugar to Fiber converts some of that extra sugar from the food you eat into a beneficial prebiotic fiber called levain. Here's how it works. Sugar to Fiber produces an enzyme called levain sucrase to break down sugar into its molecular building blocks, then stacks those blocks together to make fiber. By drinking sugar to fiber every day, your microbiome gets more of what it needs and less of what it doesn't, leading to a more balanced microbiome, the key to a healthy gut. Sugar to fiber is actually taking something that I'm eating and changing it into a different route, a healthier outcome. I don't have to add something new to my routine. Sugar to fiber is the newest product from ZBiotics. They also have a pre-alcohol probiotic available to purchase to help with rough mornings after drinking. Go to zbiotics.com/Ken and use Ken at checkout for 15% off any ZBiotics probiotics. ZBiotics has a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode. I all too often get stuck in this pundit mindset that persuasion is over, that people are locked into their tribes, and we just need to beat the other side, which in some cases is true. But I think your experience proves that there are still hearts out there that are ready to be moved on an issue like this. And it's proof to me that the right story can actually move hearts and minds. And your story is the right story. You say abortion is, the word has come to mean something it didn't used to. And I think that's absolutely right, because on the far right, when people say abortion, what they think is what Donald Trump and MAGA is selling, which is abortion after birth, right? All of these abortions happening late in the third trimester, when in fact 97% happen very early in the pregnancy. And those that do happen late, as Pete Buttigieg so eloquently says, are in families where they have already they've already painted the baby's room. They've already picked out a crib, right? These are not mothers and families who decide on a whim, we don't want to have this baby. It is always a tragic and deeply personal decision that late in a pregnancy. And yet somehow the right has taken this procedure and made it seem like it is done callously and cavalierly, and that many of them happen late in the pregnancy, even after birth, which is just absurd and offensive. And I think we've got to regain the high ground in this conversation, and we do it with stories like yours. I intentionally haven't asked you for the details of what happened, because it's got to be hard to talk about every time, and we're going to roll the video that you made at the end of this show anyway. But what is the importance of men like you, men like us, talking about this, even though we all know that it is the women in our lives who really carry the burden on this issue?
Great question. I didn't know it was rare for a man to speak out. That was brought to my attention afterwards. And I went, what? That can't be right.
Yeah.
It's backwards to me, because we're asking our wives or daughters, whoever's been put through this terrible thing, to go out and relive it. Why wouldn't it be the husband or father's duty, in a way, to go out and speak out and try and protect and defend their family? If a woman is strong enough and comfortable to go out and speak out, amazing, more power to them. It's an incredibly powerful thing, but it should not be rare for a man to go out and defend his wife or want to do the thing. I remember when it first happened, I was ready to fight. It was this thing inside of me that I didn't know was there, that just got dialed up to 11. And I don't know how to explain it. I was going to yell it from the rooftops. I wanted everybody in the world to know what happened. I wanted people to understand it should not be happening. And I was shocked to feel like, am I the only one out here doing this? Why am I getting this reaction? Because I'm a man doing this. It feels so backwards. And even if it's going out as a family unit, or situations like mine, people ask me all the time, where's your wife? Why isn't she speaking out? Because she doesn't want to. She's not comfortable. She does not want to relive that torturous nightmare. It is a totally normal thing to do when you go through something that traumatic, for your healing process to be, I just need to get back to normal. Whatever that looks like now, I need to be in that world of normalcy. And that's how it is for my wife. So it even more so, it's my duty to go out and talk about this because my wife doesn't want to. And I don't think it's right to just be quiet. We're supposed to be quiet about it. No. And I'm fed up with men prioritizing other things as far as the election goes. They prioritize the economy or immigration or guns. And that seems to say to me and to the women in their lives, I would think, yeah, the women can die as long as gas prices are cheap, or the women can die, just don't take my gun, or the women can die as long as people coming in from Mexico are put through a different process. It's ignorant and it's irresponsible as men, I think.
And it's unmanly. It's unmanly.
Also true. Also, it is weak. It is so weak. And the irony of these online attacks, and people love to say stupid shit to me like low T male and all, it's so stupid, and they don't realize how dumb they sound. That's the ironic thing also, is they're too ignorant to realize how ignorant they sound.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. It is not manly at all.
Well, Ryan, like I said at the top, honored to speak with you. Keep doing what you're doing. We're going to share the story of what you and your wife went through with the outro. I need to ask before we leave, though, how's she doing? How's your family doing?
Thank you for asking. Ken, do you mind if I say something before I share about how Jess is doing?
Of course.
People love to attack with this, your wife had a miscarriage, it has nothing to do with abortion. And I think that it is so important for people to understand that when a woman goes in and needs a procedure called a DNC, which is the procedure my wife needed to complete an incomplete miscarriage, it is the exact same procedure as an abortion. It is identical. It is not different. There is not a different procedure for an incomplete miscarriage. Whenever they are done doing the procedure and they go to essentially do their paperwork afterwards, what they have to file for the medical record, the medical coding that they enter is abortion. There is not a different medical coding for a DNC for an incomplete miscarriage. So in places like Texas, when it's against the law to perform an abortion at a certain point, the doctors essentially have to break the law in their paperwork afterwards. So people go, your wife had an incomplete miscarriage. Any doctor would have done that. It's not against the law. The law is clear. This is where they're wrong, because when the doctor is done, no matter what, they are leaving a paper trail. And essentially what the medical coding and the paperwork says is abortion and a 13-week-old fetus, right? Excuse me, fetus. That is where it gets tricky. And then they have admitted to a crime where they face life in prison. And it is so important to me that people understand that is why my wife didn't get the care that she needed, because a doctor has to write down that they broke the law afterwards. And I just feel like it's so important to mention that. So thank you for letting me do that. My wife is doing much better physically. I think people can understand this is something we will carry for the rest of our lives. It is a forever thing. I know you know, and I'm so sorry that you and your family went through something similar. It's a forever thing. It's awful what happened to her and our family. It's the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ryan, for doing what we're doing. Keep speaking out. Here is Ryan Hamilton and his wife's story.
These are the steps I took through our bedroom into the bathroom where I discovered my wife, unconscious, cold, and lifeless in a pool of her own blood. She bled for 4 days after being denied the care she needed because of the Texas abortion ban. Since going public with our story, we've been attacked relentlessly. Liar, political propaganda. If that really happened, name the hospitals. This is SurePoint Emergency Center in Stephenville, Texas. On Thursday, May 16th at 8 p.m., we learned our baby no longer had a heartbeat. My wife had an incomplete miscarriage. She was sent home with a prescription for misoprostol. It went very wrong. So we returned Saturday, May 18th, where the doctor said, considering the current stance, I'm not going to prescribe you any more medicine without providing any other option. My wife stood right here in this parking lot, bleeding, scared to death, with the child we lost inside of her. We drove to another hospital, an hour away in Granbury, Texas. This is Lake Granbury Medical Center. On Saturday, May 18th, they started all over. A new scan, more poking and prodding, only to confirm what we already knew. Our baby had no heartbeat. We asked for a DNC, the procedure she desperately needed. They kept her here for hours, bleeding in excruciating pain, only to tell us it was not enough of an emergency to perform a DNC. She didn't meet the life of the mother exception. She wasn't close enough to dead yet. They sent us back home. Then on Sunday, May 19th, her body gave out, and I found her here. I really thought I lost her. This is Texas Harris Methodist Hospital in Stephenville, Texas, where on Sunday, May 19th, I brought my wife's unconscious body for life-saving care. This is the only place they didn't hesitate to help her because she was finally close enough to dead. Losing a child is a different kind of heartbreak. It's impossible to explain. We didn't get to celebrate a new birth or take newborn photos. Instead, we will carry the trauma of this torturous experience for the rest of our lives, especially my wife. The only image we have of the child we lost is this. When they discovered our baby's heart was no longer beating. This should have been the worst of it. This was only the beginning of our nightmare. And we're not the only ones. The women we love deserve better.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.